Afternoon, everyone. I wanted to make a short little video for you as you go into assignment number 5. Just keep up to date with some of the questions we're examining and some of the issues I want you to keep looking out for. Hopefully this will be a shorter video because I know you've got a lot of reading to do, and as well as live your life on this beautiful summer day. And but I wanted to make sure we're covered here. First of all, use of parenthetical quotations. You really want to make sure you check the MLA formatting for parenthetical sites. That's been an issue that's come up. There's some grammar problems I'm seeing, mostly two things. I want you to remember the importance of writing in full sentences. You got to check for fragments, run-ons, and in that same category, really, you've got to make sure you're proofing your papers. I can sense immediately whether these papers are proofed. So you have to make sure that you've looked them over at least once or twice. Because this is formal writing. These are your essays that you would formally submit if we were in a classroom. So those same standards are important. And if you check in assignment 5, you'll see a list of things that are important to remember in terms of length. We're looking for 3 full paragraphs with at least 6 sentences apiece and 3 citations, 3 use of sources in each of your submissions. At least. That's the minimum. So I wanted to make that point. I think all of you are pretty advanced in terms of basic grammar problems, but we may have a grammar worksheet of something coming up later on. When we're using the plot of a story to make a point, and that's generally the only time we'll want to use actual plot, we want to make sure that we're using the present tense because we regard stories as living things. They're happening in the moment. So we always want to use the present tense when we're talking about these stories. The use of the voice. We've been talking a lot about the voice. All of the stories that we've read so far have been first-person narratives. And I hope you're learning as you read these stories and you read what other people are saying about them and what you've read in the introduction. It's very important you do read that introduction in the Seagull Reader. You'll get the sense that because somebody's telling that story, you don't necessarily believe everything that they're saying, and certainly don't accept that whatever they say is all there is to know about the events of the story. That becomes very clear, I think, when we get to Uncle Ben's Choice and to What You Pawn, and certainly in Cathedral. And all of these stories, you have to remember, and we're only talking about stories. They're only stories. Stories that might be told to you by your neighbor, your old friend. So you might know someone better than you know another. And you have to, treat these stories in the same manner. You accept everything that's being told to you as the whole truth and nothing but the truth. That is seldom the case. So you want to use the voice of the main character in these first-person narratives as a gateway into the story. And don't assume that, it's simply as the narrator tells it. And I think you'll begin to see that and understand that as we go along. And you're going to begin to see the word significance as you get to assignment 5. Try to determine the significance of the story or of certain events in the story. And ultimately, that's what we want to be addressing. I like the term significance better than meaning. Because, as the introduction points out, we can all have our own personal meanings that we take away from the story. The point is to prove that to us, to come to the significance that is most plausible and most defensible based on the text within the story. And that's what we're all trying to do here. I also want you to take a look at page 30 in the introduction specifically. On that page, there's some very valuable information in regards to what I'm discussing right now. But I really want you to read all those introductory pages. They're very important. The next part, and I'm going to make this a short video, I promise, is you all will have gotten a notice of our discussion page, which is a very important part of this class, especially as we are doing all this online. So everyone needs to participate in the discussions as they arise, answering the prompt, using the same tools as I outlined in that discussion announcement as we would use in our essays submissions. You want to make the point by quoting the text, quoting outside sources, secondary sources, or the primary source, and to begin, finding the significance via what others have found. And that's how we come to some consensus as to the significance of a story. So I hope everybody will be getting on board with that first discussion prompt. They will be continuously coming up as the semester unfolds. But the first one's up there. What I would suggest is checking that discussion before you're going to finish an essay response, as there is one due tomorrow morning. There won't be probably much of a discussion as yet, but in the future, you'll want to check that page, discussion page, get involved, add to the discussion, and it will give you ideas as to what the story might mean or its significance. I think those are all the things I wanted to cover. I will be getting in touch with you about our Skype calls. I'm not sure they're going to be next week, but I do want to reach out to each of you, either by phone or Skype, and I will at some point be pasting a sign-up sheet for those calls. I don't think you need to worry. I'm going to make sure that these calls are available to everyone at a time in which they can contact me. So good luck with your assignment for tomorrow. I think these are wonderful stories, and I think after maybe this week and next week, after reading them, rereading them, that you're going to come to some conclusions that you might not have come to had you not been a part of the class and thought about such things as voice and projection, which is the last issue I want to leave you with, is how does a character and the emotions of a character get projected through the environment. In other words, what is it about the environment? And because we're moving on from talking about the voice and character to the stories of places, the significance of the place as it relates to the events of the story. Think of Sonny's Blues. Think of Uncle Ben's Choice. The environment in which they live, the towns, the villages, very important to what the story is trying to say. And so, not so much perhaps about character as it is in A&P, but how certain people are living their lives within very precarious environments, and illuminating, hopefully, I think when we come to Cathedral, the ways we think about the world. We think about ourselves and the limitations we may bring to the world we live in. And more about that later. Anyway, have a great weekend. Please try to stay as current as you can. Can you hear my birds? I have birds. And I'll be in touch early next week. So great to at least talk to you, and looking forward to having you talk to me soon. So again, have a great weekend. Enjoy the weather. I'll talk to you soon.